scene. So my job tonight is to set the scene in this slightly unusual way. I think that when we have these conversations about code, it's often very serious and very technical. And my job is to actually as we go into celebrating these important policy victories and models, I'm going to ask the audience to listen really actively with these two questions in mind. The first question is, what role does Passive House play in climate justice? And the second question is, how do we center climate justice in building performance policy? So I'd like to start you off by offering you this definition of climate justice. Climate justice is the principle that actions to mitigate and adapt to climate change should, number one, equitably distribute their benefits, redress existing inequities, and dismantle institutional racism. Right? So I want to just highlight that when we're talking about climate justice, it's not just about harm mitigation. So it's not just about don't site that waste transfer station next to this low-income neighborhood, or don't put that peaker plant there. It's not just that historically marginalized communities should be better off. What we're saying is that both the process and the outcomes ought to be restorative and strive to achieve the absolute outcomes of health, dignity, and the pursuit of fulfillment. So this is not a relative exercise. This is an absolute exercise, right? So this is a little abstract and a little even heady. So let me give you my perspective on this as a person who's been working in housing. So I've been working at the intersection of affordable housing and climate change. And from my perspective, one way I see Passive House intersecting with climate justice, and surely there are many interactions, is really a discussion about quality. Because from time to time throughout the history of affordable housing, we've redefined what we consider to be acceptable housing conditions. And I think it's clear to all of us on this panel and probably in the audience that Passive House buildings are the best buildings that we know how to build today. Not only because they're energy efficient, but because they deliver the best occupant experience as well. So when we say all new construction or all affordable housing should be built to Passive House today, that's not just a statement about efficiency. What we're saying is it is a restorative approach to housing, because what we're asking folks to do is to build the best building we know how to build for the people who have most suffered from disinvestment. So I also want to leave you with this other thought about climate justice, which is that climate justice is not just about restorative outcomes, it's equally about the process, right? So climate justice says that in order to understand what is restorative, the people most affected have to have real decision-making power. So before I went into urban planning, I was a computer programmer during sort of the heyday of the open source movement. So to borrow some words from Richard Stallman of the open source movement, climate justice is free, not as in beer, but as in speech. So yes, the outcomes are great, right? Yes, the improvements are great, but it doesn't end in the building product that we produce. But it's about giving folks agency. It's about giving them the freedom to make those decisions and co-create with us. So with that thought, I'd like to hand it back to Zach.